Hi, everyone. I'm going to give everyone just about another minute to get logged on here. We've got several people, looks like, who are logging on right now. And then we will turn it over to Mr. Clint Paul, our CEO. He's going to talk about Hope's strategy and roadmap. So we thought this would be a really great opportunity for everyone to hear, why we are expanding so much, the need for the services out there, where we've been, our legacy, and where we're going to go moving forward, and all of the great things that we're going to do along the way. So I think maybe in just about 30 seconds, we will get going here, and then we'll turn it over to Clint.
Okay, can you see that presentation?
Yes. Yep, I can see it.
We ready to get started?
I think we're ready.
All right, well, I appreciate everybody signing on, and today we're gonna talk briefly about our strategic roadmap, our strategic planning process, what Hope has gone through, what we do go through, and kind of where we're heading, what we're using as our map to guide us forward. So with that, let me start my presentation here. Let's see. Which, are you seeing the big presentation, Jody? I want to make sure I got it up right.
Yeah, I can see, it looks like it's not quite in presentation mode yet. I can see the slides to the left.
I'm sharing the wrong screen, so hold tight, everybody. Stop sharing and do this again. Came up on a different screen. This should be full presentation.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so before we can talk about our strategy and where we're going, let's talk a little bit about our history. As most everybody knows, but maybe not, we have new people obviously joining our company every day as we grow into new areas and new programming, but our history goes back to 1957. It was started by Dr. Jordan and his wife, who couldn't find proper services for their daughter who had multiple disabilities. So with that, they decided to really be cutting edge and start their own school for their daughter. And that was Judith Ann Jordan. And Judith Ann Jordan still is a participant in our programs today. She's one of the only adult residential participants we have at Hope, but we're proud to still serve the Jordan family. But really, they were cutting edge in 1957 because back then, most children with multiple or severe disabilities were sent to institutions. It was not that's just what was available at the time. We're going back 60 plus years. So was that cutting edge? What we were doing community classrooms in a residential school in the community was cutting edge. So when they decided to do a community classroom and their own school, the word spread quickly and got out, and people across the state and across country started sending their kids to Hope to be educated. And in turn, we had to bolt on basically a residential school so kids can access bolt on our residential program so they can access our school. So that's kind of what, when we talk about the legacy of Hope, it's our education program and our residential program. That's really what our roots were. That's where it was, that's what the Jordan started, and that's what we still do for most part today. So our mission. So our mission currently is to cultivate change in the most inclusive environments to encourage each person with intellectual or developmental disabilities to fulfill their potential through evidence-based treatment, advocacy, and community education. Now you'll see this resonate when we start talking about our strategic plan and what we did 8+ years ago when we put our plan together. You know, when we talk about our programs, the only thing we do is evidence-based. That's what we're not out there to promote anything that's less than, you know, evidence-based treatment for children and adults. And we do a lot of advocacy and we do a lot of education today. So you'll see these things resonate through our strategic plan. With that, we developed almost 10 years ago, our impact statement. So when we did our strategic plan in 2016, our focus was to be on children and adults with autism and other low incident disabilities and their families and the systems that serve and support them. So that's kind of our impact statement. That's what we want to do. That's who we want to impact. In addition to that, Hope will impact greater numbers of children, adults, and families by creating and expanding least restrictive, integrated, and community-based systems of care. Now, when we're talking about these least restrictive, integrated, community-based systems of care, what are we talking about? So in the world of disabilities, there is a continuum of care. And you can see by this graph on the left-hand side is least intensive. And then all the way on the right side is most intensive or most restrictive. So as we know, Hope's legacy has been mostly on the right-hand side, most intensive. So you see the children's residential, adult residential on the right-hand side, private therapeutic education programs like our school here in Springfield. As you start shifting more left in that continuum of care, you start doing more community-based, less restrictive, least restrictive interventions and programming. And that's where you can actually impact greater numbers of individuals to serve. So that's where you have the community classrooms, you have public schools, outpatient health services, and then as you far, the most least restrictive is some of the research grants, the training and outreach that we do, and policy and system development. So that's kind of when we look at our system of care, and we're trying to create a continuum of that care from most restrictive to least restrictive to give our participants an option. This is where, you know, our programs fall. How do we do that? So 2016, we started our 10-year strategic plan. And every year since then, we go through an annual process with that strategic plan. So we're coming up now on, I guess our 8th year currently in that plan that we set forth. But every year before our fiscal year, our team gets together and we talk about our objectives. We talk about for the year, we talk about our goals. So our annual strategic plan focuses in 2 areas. So every year we do strategic operational goals, and then we also do strategic business line goals. So, and they're 2 different things. The operational goals help sustain and improve the programs that we're currently operating. The strategic business line goals are basically things that we want to do and the areas we want to grow in. So goals to help Hope grow and create that greater impact we were talking about on the previous slide, where we can get into do more of our health clinic or our clinics, outpatient clinics, do more community classrooms. And so we can have that greater impact on families, on individuals we serve. So when we're talking our strategic plan, so that's where the strategic business lines come from, is our strategic plan. So when we set forth back in 2016 to start writing the strategic plan, we had to, we came up with 4 strategic priorities in our plan. So these are the 4 areas that we as Hope, we as leadership think we should focus our attention on. And so our strategic priority 1 in our annual plan, or our strategic plan, 10-year strategic plan, is to provide residential education and clinical services to individuals with autism and other developmental or intellectual disabilities and their families. That's a huge area of our strategic plan. So basically that's all our program stuff, right? So that's where we would talk about in our 10-year plan, like we want to impact 1,000 children through our autism clinics by 10 years. And that's actually a goal. And it was a goal set forth almost 10 years ago for our clinics that and at that point, we think we were serving 3 kids ABA wise in our clinic. And it wasn't even named the autism clinic. It was under TAP. It was TAP Illinois. So we went under this transformation. We're like, if we're going to have this 10-year goal of serving this many youth or children in this program, we need it, and we're going to grow it outside Illinois. It's got to separate its name. So we went through obviously a name change with that program as well to separate it from TAP. It still serves a function. It works with TAP because TAP's a legacy program under HOPE through the Illinois grant from DHS. So, but that's where the meat is. We've got goals for what we want to do residentially 10 years out. We got goals on our schools, how many individuals we want to impact in our schools, how many impact in our clinics, how many we want to impact in our outpatient clinics like TRH, how many adults we want to serve. Because 10 years ago, or a little less than 10 years ago, we weren't serving that many adults. And then we put in our strategic plan in 10 years, we wanted to serve well over 100 adults with disabilities. And today we're serving 400. So we completely blew that out of the water. So these are things that, and some things didn't come to fruition. You know, you put things in a plan, you know, environments change, things change as you go along. So we may have to adjust. And that's why we kind of look at it annually. But we went through these priorities. Priority 2 in our plan was the research and policy agendas for individuals with autism and intellectual disability. So you'll see, mostly we're pretty active in the state of Illinois. We're starting to get more active in the state of Missouri. We have a lot of programming and starting to get a little more active on the national side of things, the federal side of things. But most of the policy and stuff we do is in Illinois. We want to continue pushing that out into other states who may have the need for us to push for different laws for the individuals we serve to better serve them, right? So we always look at that in every state we're in. If there's things we can help push change, then we're there to do that. Priority 3 we felt was important was our workforce. So we wanted to try to figure out in our strategic plan, what do we do year after year or to get to 10 years to really cultivate and build a culture of workforce excellence and a workforce that embraces continuous improvement. So we have a whole section built out on that. And that's where we built out our quality department, which we really only had a piece of that in a legacy. And now it's really kind of spreading across all HOPE programs. And we're really still refining that and developing our continuous improvement program under that. So departments, programs can utilize that area of HOPE to get better, because we want to make sure that we're continuing to improve, we're continuing to provide, you know, excellent service, and we believe that'll translate to our workforce and have obviously a workforce that embraces that, but also a workforce that will continue to work towards excellence. So having a great workforce is very important to what we do because we serve individuals, right? So we want to make sure our workforce is embracing that and we have a good culture. Strategic priority 4 in our plan was to continue to improve the financial health of the organization and diversify. We went through, you know, some tough times back in 2011, 12, 13 with the state of Illinois, and it was on our radar to do some things which would help us survive if anything happened to one program or another. So, you know, that was important to us, is not to put all our eggs in one basket. HOPE's been around for over 60 years, and it's my job and our team's executive team's job is to continue make sure it continues for another 60 years. So what's that mean? It's like, well, we have expertise in a lot of areas, so let's start getting into some of these other areas where we can really create a good impact, but also diversify away from the state of Illinois, not have 80% of our revenues come from the state of Illinois. So if they have a bad budget year or they cut funding, then all of a sudden we're laying off people. And so that's not where we want to be. We want to be able to bring funding from different sources, private, governmental, foundations. So we really made a push in our strategic plan to bring a bunch of pieces together. So if we're having a downturn or there's a hiccup with one of our funding sources, we don't have to start immediately laying off people in other programs and that sort of thing. So we've done a very good job in diversifying away from single source revenues, and also continuing our impact on individuals we serve, which is what we're here for. So this is kind of, when we got done with our strategic plan, this is kind of what it looked like. And I know you guys can't read it here because it's a lot, but our strategic priorities on the left-hand side, and then we start with our 10-year goals, and then we have 3-year goals, and then we have our annual objectives. And that's what I talked about earlier. When we meet every year, we look at these 3-year goals out, and then we look at our annual objectives and make sure we're targeting, we're doing things that this coming year that are getting us to this 3-year goal, and this 3-year goal is getting us to our 10-year goal. So we're coming up, our 10-year goal is up in 2026. I know nobody can read that, but so we're going to have to start looking again at redoing our whole plan. I think there was things when we did this back in the day, we were kind of dreaming about what we could do, what we could become, and the things we can achieve. And it's amazing the things we achieved quickly. And there's some of the things that, took a lot longer, and things were more challenging than others. We found out, our clinics are doing very well, and they expanded. Those type of services were much easier for us to expand into than, say, a school. A school has a lot more state regulations and those sort of things, and hoops you got to jump through to start your school. So we found that out when we started our Edwardsville school, and now we're growing that and looking at other areas to continue our community classrooms and vocational programs. So it's an ever, it's a thing that adjusts year to year when we look at it. And but we continue to look at our 10-year goal and say, how do we get there? Or do we have to adjust it because the environment, the landscape's changed? There's no funding there anymore, or some of those things come up. So we're constantly looking at that every year and putting forth our changes in our annual objectives. The other part of that, which I mentioned earlier, that we do annually is our strategic operational goals. And again, it's good to do all this strategic planning, business line, workforce culture, and all those things, but none of that means anything if we can't maintain what we have. So it's very important to me that we continue to put forth our best efforts every year in creating goals for ourselves, for every department and every program, because we should strive to be better at everything we do. And that's what we're doing. So I think we're doing a good job. We do those. And a lot of people work with their probably department manager on their operating goals every year, but that's what they're there for. They're there to make us better and continue to strive to be better. So over time, these things hopefully are just a part of our DNA, where our culture is one to, hey, every year we should have goals to make this better, that better, the quality of services, all the way to the communication with parents, or whatever the topic is. We should strive to be the best at all those things. And that's where we want to land. We want to be the best. Here's just some examples. I'm sure some of you have been through this. So, these are some of the example goals that were set forth in some of the previous years. Like behavioral health had a goal to improve fidelity of electronic data collection. TAC had a goal one year to improve quality of treatment planning and clinical programming. So, and then we have process goals, and we have some miscellaneous goals. I think it's very important that we always have a quality goal for every program. And then a process goal, I think, is good because Hope's been around for 60 years, and it seems some of our processes have been around 60 years. So we always want to make sure that we're trying to improve and be efficient with our processes and streamline things that we're doing, because we have to. I mean, we have tons of vacancies. It's, you know, it's the employment sector, it's hard to fill positions. So we got to be more effective and efficient with the employees that we have. So that means maybe streamlining things that we don't need anymore, or taking away not activities, but processes that, you know, we've done for so long. And then we got to take a look at them and say, why are we doing them? Should we still do we need to still do them? Is there any value added to that? So those are things we should be looking at on an annual basis, and we are. And then some other miscellaneous goals. We also give an opportunity for most departments to just kind of do one goal on their own. That's not a process or a quality goal. And a lot of that's usually communication, which I think is key across any organization, is having better communication, whether it's interdepartment, with families, top up, down, all those things. We can all be better at that. We also track our operational goals and our strategic annual objectives. So we report this out typically quarterly, and I report to our board of directors at least twice a year on how we're doing on our goals. So, you know, we set these every year and every year at the beginning of our fiscal year. So, you know, typically halfway through the year, we should be at 50%, you know, or roughly of reaching our goals. So we try to maintain that focus in front of us and for the year. So we're achieving our goals, not just writing goals and not following up on them. So we try to report out and make sure that we're achieving those. Now, sometimes goals will change, or the environment changes where we just can't do a certain thing, or something came up as a roadblock. So we do sometimes have to adjust, but for the most part, we don't. So this is kind of our roadmap programming, I guess I'd call it. So if you look on the left-hand side is, you know, we used to say this is kind of this almost used to be the least restrictive to most restrictive, although we've added this community behavioral consulting recently. And that would be more probably on the outpatient therapy clinical services. That should really be down here. But this, you know, outpatient therapy and clinical is really our autism clinics, therapy relief at Hope, ICPN, Rentham, therapeutic services. So all those, and really in that age bracket, we're serving from ages of 2 to 100 at that point in those programs. Then we have community-based classrooms, which serve basically from 5 to 22. We have vocational classrooms, vocational academies that serve 14 to 22, and actually now it's adults. So now we actually go over 22. So I need to update my slides. We do have adult vocational classrooms now. We started 1.5 years ago. And then we have our residential services, which currently are only ages 8 to 22. And then we just recently added our community behavioral consulting for adults, which is 22 and older, only in Illinois currently, and probably be expanding that to DMH in Missouri as well. So, you know, why the expansion? Why the strategic plan? Why all this? Why do we go through all this? Well, it's the prevalence. If you look at the prevalence of autism, prevalence of just having a developmental disability has increased significantly throughout the years. So I know this slide's a little bit old, but there's individuals who are out there that need service. And that's where Hope is here. Where Hope's here to help where we can. Maybe we say yes too much, but that's okay sometimes. Maybe we get over our skis a little bit on some of the services we provide, but again, that's okay, because that's what we want to do. We want to be able to provide services where there's a need, and we're very good at it. We have a history. We have over 60 years in this space of serving individuals with disabilities and intellectual disabilities. So I think we're primed to continue that moving forward. But again, also why? there's a changing environment of ways healthcare services are provided. So that's constantly changing. Why is that changing? Because of the funders and because of the government regulations and all those things. So they have forced a lot of change for the good. Some of it may not be as good as it should be, but those things have been forced on a lot of providers, just to change just because of those set of circumstances. Also, best practice. When we talk about community-based, least restrictive, those are what's best for the individuals. If we can, and I said it 10 years ago, if we can serve 1,000 kids in our autism clinics, 2 to 5, and they all graduate and go to their public school and live at home, and they don't have to see our therapeutic day school or our residential program, that's okay, because that's a win. It's a win for that family. There's always going to be kids for those services, but hopefully over time that reduces, and that time spent away from their family reduces. There's more kids that access community services when they're younger and have better outcomes, so they don't have to have their parent change every 8 hours, or and be in a more restrictive environment. So that's where we say that's best practice and greater outcomes. And we're okay, because there's still a lot of kids with autism to serve, even if it somehow took out a residential, but it won't. We know there's still going to be residential services needed, because there's still a lot of kiddos that are going to be on the severe and profound side of things, and still will need those residential services moving forward. And this all leads back to providing greater impact, which I call is like Hope 2.0. So when I started here at Hope 13 plus years ago, 2009, I think we were serving roughly about 853 individuals across all programs. And today, putting all the things together that we've done, we're serving over 6,245 individuals and their families. So this does include a lot of the community trainings we do, but also majority of those are direct individuals that we're serving. So what's the path forward? Continued growth, continued diversification, and survival, right? So we will continue to grow our autism clinics and our therapy relief models into new markets. And what we have found with doing that, we establish ourselves as a leader in autism services. Our name gets into the community as a good provider, and then once we establish those, then we can come after that and look for the needs for legacy programs, such as our educational, vocational, or residential programs. And we're doing that now. We did that in the Metro East area, where we started our clinics, and then 2 years ago now we started community classrooms, and now we're expanding those community classrooms to vocational age kiddos, high school age kids down there. And then we'll do that again at one of our other locations where we have TAC clinics. And we may not be doing that as quickly as we'd like, but we have we have limited resources, so we only can do so much every year. But the need is continued out there everywhere we go. Every conference we're at, we're told about the need, and the continuing need in this community or this state or in this area. So we're always looking for opportunities to provide those impacts. So, and we would continue to look for opportunities to grow our impact and reach through our grants and RFPs. So we continue our grant programs, look for other grant programs to help other states out. We're doing it in Massachusetts. We do it in Illinois, looking at some of the other states where they have grant opportunities to help their states out with the individuals they serve within those states. And the future is really, meeting the individuals where they are. And that's where we're going to continue to go into the communities, continue to go into the states where the individuals live, and can serve them closest to home, which again goes back to best practices, best outcomes for everybody. So that's kind of our roadmap for Hope is, least restrictive to most restrictive, and we're can continue on the path of growing those least restrictive models and then bolting on our legacy programs onto those as we move into other communities, because we have to. If we sat here as a little school by the lake, that's what we would be, as a little school by the lake, and probably end up just withering away on the vine. And that's just not providing the impact that we should be providing out there in the community, which we are today. So I'm proud of what we do day in and day out. We have tremendous staff that helps us get and achieve these goals year after year. And we're in a good place, and we're in a good place to continue to grow our impact. And I hope everybody's proud to be a part of that as we continue to grow that impact over the next 10 years. So that's all I had for that, Jody.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was really great. I know I'm proud to work here. I know just
Don't kiss up to me. No.
But seeing the impact and I think it really drives it home when you see the number of who we served, about over 10 years ago, and who we serve now, and all the states we're in. I think there's a lot of people around Springfield who don't realize we are in so many places, and we're trying to make sure that we're getting that message out there. But it's really great.
We want to be a regional leader, a regionally known name, not just kind of Springfield community, but now we want to be a nationally known name.
Exactly.
I think we're getting there with some of the things we're doing, and we're going to continue to do, as long as we, have the resources and to do it, we'll continue to get our name out there, our services out there, because I believe they are the best. Can we improve? Absolutely. We can improve every year.
Right. No, I completely agree. I think we're doing it the best, and we need to make sure that everybody has access to that. So, thank you, Clint. I don't know if anyone has any questions. There's a chat box. I think everyone's on mute, but if anyone had any questions, there is a chat here that you could utilize just for a couple minutes. If not, we will wrap things up. But thank you guys. Thank you, Clint. I think this was very informational. I think it was, I took some things away from it, and I knew most of it already. So
yeah, and I'm going to try to do we talked about a monthly CEO call like this, but more people can submit questions and we can answer, or I can answer those, I guess, on a monthly call with staff, just so they kind of know where we're going, that sort of things.
Yeah, I think that would be great. So I don't see any questions, so I think we'll wrap up, but thank you again. Thank you everyone for taking some time out of your day to attend, and we will all talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.